There's an urban myth in Japan called cowhead, or translated Gozu. Go meaning cow and zu meaning head. It's an urban myth about a story so scary that if anyone reads it, they will die. The story itself is more about the story, if that makes sense. It's more about this idea of a story that exists than the actual story that kills people. And as a result, the story of the story becomes the tale. It's a simple concept that relies on the reader, the listener, or the viewer to let their imagination run wild. What could this story possibly be that makes it so bad that people die when they watch it? And it's a concept that we've seen throughout Japanese cinema with films like Ringu, for example, and this idea of something so devilish that exists that you could never even comprehend what's there on screen or what's actually in the literature, and if you was to ever witness it, you would never survive. And in 2003, Takashi Miike makes a film of the same title, Gozu. It's a clear reference to let the viewer know that what you're about to see is going to be hard to explain, that what you witness will stay with you far after the film. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Takashi Miike's Gozu from 2003. This was actually voted for. A lot of you guys, they chose it to be the next video. I'm surprised how many people voted. I'm always surprised that people even give a crap about this channel. But anyway, it's a little less scripted than normal. We use a lot of footage of me just chatting to the camera. But we'll have a good time and let's look at, one of Takashi Miike's weirdest films from a period of filmmaking when he was arguably in his prime. Let's take a look. On with the video. Okay, so Gozu as a film is a rather basic concept when you break it down. A low-level yakuza member, Minami, is tasked with killing his superior, a deranged, paranoid yakuza member that has become a liability to the group, and as a result, he has to go. We quickly learn this because in the opening moments of the film, we see him violently kill a chihuahua because he believes that it's a dog trained to kill yakuzas. It's definitely one of Takashi Miike's most brutal openings, but it sets the course for what's to come. So as a result, Minami sets out to do what was asked of him, and this is where the film begins its journey. It gives us a clear A to B motive from the start. We know what we're getting into. It lulls us into a normality and a sense of kind of a typicalness that we would expect from a Yakuza film, but it quickly goes awry. Gozu is fundamentally a surrealist film. It doesn't follow the logic of reality. It doesn't build in a traditional sense. Instead, it drifts and moves through a series of disconnected encounters that feel less like plot points and more like fragments of a dream. Spaces feel familiar but slightly off, like they've been remembered incorrectly. You don't follow Gozu, you move through it. And this is where the initial idea of Gozu becomes more important, because beyond the urban legend, Gozu is also tied to an older tradition. In Japanese Buddhist mythology, the ox-headed figure, often referred to as Gozu, is the guardian of the underworld, a being that stands at the threshold between life and death, the first presence you encounter as you pass into something beyond the living world. Now, Gozu the god is from the Buddhist version of hell, a world of multiple hells distinguished by realms of fire and ice. It's a true hellscape in the way that we would think of it in most religions. But the earlier version of the underworld in Japan is Yomi. It's a more isolated vision, one that's more of a liminal space, a purgatory almost, and this is actually more in line with what we see in the film Gozu. You see, we have to think of Gozu as a journey into the underworld. This is what this film is fundamentally about. You see, as Minami starts to take Ozaki out of the city, which is notable, he moves away from the city into the outskirts, and we often associate, especially in Japanese cinema, that as we move away from places like Tokyo, we go to a more traditional sense of Japan. So it's important that the journey starts with Minami taking him out of the city. So we're moving away from the kind of structure of modern Yakuza life, and we're entering a world that's more of a traditional sense of Japan. This is really important to know. But as we're driving along, they reach a body of water that seemingly feels like it's not meant to be there. Minami kind of reacts as if this is like whoa, this is not meant to be there. Something's gone wrong here. He's either took a wrong turn or something's happened to the road. And it's at this point, I think, the film steps away from reality. So we leave the real world and we now enter some form of a dreamscape, some form of a underworld or a passage into somewhere that's not rooted in reality. So it's interesting that this happens once they leave the city. They almost go from the real world to the underworld. Kind of feels similar to something like Spirited Away in that sense of the way they start traveling through the countryside and they enter that kind of underworld and spirit world of old Japan. So from this point onwards, the film essentially establishes new rules for the reality that they're in, and it's basically a dream world from this point onwards. So think of all the things that happen from this point. So Minami accidentally knocks out Ozaki, which puts him essentially he might be dead at this point, but we're not truly sure. So he heads to a diner, which has a strange array of characters in it. He then discovers that Ozaki has escaped, and this establishes the new point A to B that we need as the viewer. So now the journey is about Minami trying to find Ozaki and what's happened to him. He meets a man with half a face covered in white and answers some riddles. Again, it already feels like he's running into these spiritual characters that have got riddles and are tricking him and taking him on this weird journey. The man offers to help him and gains his help, almost acting as a spirit guide for him through this world. He stays in a hotel where the innkeeper seems to produce breast milk. That there's loads of weird moments in the film where it also seems like everyone in this supposed spirit world drinks said breast milk. They seem to worship the breast milk. Bizarre scene, reminds me of Visitor Q as well. But there's this kind of motherly figure in distress, which is a typical kind of trope in Japanese spirits. The grieving mother, the mother in pain and in distress. So again, it feels like we're in that kind of spiritual setting as we kind of go through this journey with Minami. The next day he returns to the restaurant from the first bit where his spirit guide, the man with kind of half the face, reveals to him that the guy that owns that diner shouldn't even be alive. It died 3 years ago. So again, we're in a setting that is supposedly run by ghosts. And once it's revealed, it kind of just moves on as if it's kind of just done with, and this is just the reality that they live in now. So again, we're going through these various stages of the underworld as we kind of go through the journey with Minami to explore and find Ozaki. He returns to the hotel to learn Ozaki had been staying in the room above him the entire time, a room hidden behind a secret door. Again, this underworld idea, this labyrinths, these hidden passages, it really feels like we're taking and pick a mix of different various tales of going to hell and trying to find something. He stays the night in the room Ozaki stayed in, and here he sees Gozu himself. Gozu approaches him, almost ushering him further into hell. So up to this point, we've kind of been in this spiritual world. We've been going on these slight journeys and meeting various characters, but now we're met explicitly with the guardian of the underworld as we're ready to step into that next stage of the story. Soon, Minami meets a girl who says she is Ozaki, which leads to the most memorable scene in the entire film, the scene where she births Ozaki. It's one of the most surrealist moments, I think, in any Takashi Miike film. And it comes at a point in his filmography, which I did a video on this quite a while ago now, so I don't know if that video holds up, but maybe go watch it if you do. But the thesis that I made was that this period of Takashi Miike's filmography, from about the late 90s, probably 98 to kind of like 2005, is where he really hits a stride of making some of his most iconic films, some of his best films, and some of his strangest films, and some of his most extreme films. And the reason that I focused on that period in the original video that I did about him was I wanted to find why it's this period where he kind of really delved into the extreme side of cinema. So we have things like Audition, Visitor Q, Gozu fits into this category, Ichi the Killer is around that period as well. And it's an interesting period for him as a filmmaker. He moves away from just being a V cinema director. This is when studios kind of really realize that there's money to be made by taking the directors that had formed their kind of career within the world of V cinema and finding a platform for that type of filmmaking in the mainstream. Takashi Miike is also highly prolific. Like, he's making a crap ton of films at constant rate. I think from like mid-1990s to even now, he's essentially made minimum one film a year. But that period around that time where he was making some of his most extreme films, he was making up to 2 to 3 films a year easily without fault. Insane, but there's a level of dark comedy, I think, to all of these films, and you can tell that it's him trying to just film something he might not have seen before, create something on screen that feels new, that has definitely not been done before, because he's filmed pretty much every type of normal standard setup so many times at this point that it becomes, how can he do something that he's not done before? So this period, you see this kind of trajectory into the extreme as a result of directing so many films. And then on top of that, there's the added layer that he was also expected to create this. Audition was probably one of his big kind of films that put him on the map outside of Japan as well, and it has that journey into the extreme portion of cinema at the end, and as a result people wanted to see that. So Gozu as a surrealist film kind of fits into this category and really allows him to explore things that he might not have explored. It goes down this journey through hell, and it takes from various different stories as well. Like, it feels at times like Dante's Inferno, and there's also the story in Japan, the Izanagi story, which is very similar to Dante's Inferno, where he goes to find his wife in the underworld and bring her back. Interestingly, in that, there's the moment where he can't look at his wife because she's so decayed, and if he does look at her, he's forbidden from looking at her, but he does look, and that's kind of the premise of that whole story. It's interesting that the woman, after she births him, starts to decay like that as well. So there's constant references to all these previous stories of going into hell. I don't think Miike is hiding the fact that we're in an underworld. I don't think that's the point of it, but he takes us on this journey, and I think there's a lot to unpack where you could go scene for scene and work out what it all means, but that's not really, I think, the point in this film. I think we're meant to soak it in and go on this surrealist journey with Takashi Miike and with the characters in the film. But interestingly as well, this was originally meant to be straight to DVD. It wasn't meant to get a theatrical release. This was so well received at Cannes Film Festival that it got picked up straight away for theatrical release. So it's really an interesting film in Takashi Miike's filmography, because it really starts to bridge that gap of when he still approaches films as a V cinema director, but the industry itself is starting to position themselves where this is no longer meant for straight to DVD, it's meant for theatrical pushes. And Gozu's a perfect example of that. And I think in many ways, this also fits into a period where Takashi Miike was starting to understand and play with the idea that the world of the yakuza that we once knew is kind of passing away. It's not functioning and operating in the way they once did. So Ozaki is paranoid, he's from the old school, and he's a liability now because he's kind of been in that world for so long that he's so paranoid that everyone's out to kill them. He's violent, he doesn't fit in anymore because he's corrupted from years of being in it, and it just doesn't function anymore, and he has to go. Minami is kind of low-key and young and kind of that newer tradition of what's meant to be. The boss of their gang is kind of not really even bothered about anything apart from just being with women. So the world of the yakuza that we once knew doesn't really function that way anymore. And this is something he was exploring in films like Agitator as well. So he's really aware of it at this point, that transition away from the old Japan into the new Japan. I think it's his last great true yakuza V cinema film, like a real send-off to that genre. And I think it's something that everyone should watch. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, comment and subscribe, and let me know what you want to see next from the channel. I'm happy to start doing what people recommend. Again, this wasn't as scripted, wasn't as researched as some of the other videos, but I think I'm going to do some like this where they're kind of a bit more, I guess, review based. And then in the meantime, I can work on the bigger scripts. Like I've got one at the moment that I've been researching for quite a while. They'll almost be ready, but we could do some ones like this in between. So if there's a film you want to see me talk about, leave it in the comments. But I think the last video, the Ebola syndrome one, did really well. My video on Pulse kind of like flopped. So I'm taking the assumption that you guys just prefer me talking about extreme cinema, which is cool because that's what I enjoy anyway. So let me know if there's a film that you want to see me talk about. I've got a few ideas. And a lot of people also voted for the film collection video, so I'm probably going to do that at some point. I just need to figure out how I'm going to do it, because I don't know, I don't want to do that thing where you talk about every single title. But I think there's a lot of films in my film collection that are films that I would probably never do a video on per se. Certain films that I just feel have either 100% kind of been explored to the point where I don't know if I would have anything to add to it that hasn't been said, but I probably would still like to mention them on the channel. So I think the film collection one would be a good chance for that. Have a look at what I've got, and I've got quite a lot of cool films as well that, yeah, probably just would never do videos on, but it'd be a good chance to chat about some of them. So I'll probably do that at some point. But yeah, appreciate all the support, and I'll see you guys on the next one.